Welcome to the quarterly Codacy product showcase with me, your host, Kendrick Curtis, VP of Technology at Codacy. You'll be hearing from me and Raphael, our lead product engineer, who's also on the call with me today. So let's crack onwards. First, we're going to talk about some general platform updates around Codacy, specifically a security update, which Raphael is going to lead you through later in the call. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's next and answer any questions you have. Since it's just the two of us today, then please do put your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat, and we'll attempt to get to them, but likely we'll probably wind up touching them at the very end. But do put them down as you come to them, and we will get through all of them by the end. So off we go. Firstly, platform updates with me. That's still me. That's still my face there and my face here. I'll talk to you about performance, some enterprise improvements, some configuration work we've been doing, and a roundup of a hackathon that we did in May. So firstly, I always talk to you about performance first because we run your static analysis for you so that you don't have to. We are a turnkey solution, which makes it easy for you, and there's no additional cost of GitHub Actions or Circle CI credits or whatever else. We just do it. But that means that we have to run a efficient engine to actually give you your results as quickly as possible. Last time, back in April, for those of you who were here then, you'll remember that I said we were going to spend the quarter dealing with our worst performing repos in the 95th to 99th percentile and try and improve performance there for our longest running ones. And you can see the contrast from April to July here, from the purple to the pink line, that we have indeed done that. We've massively cranked down how fast we process repositories in that range, and it's had a knock-on effect into the rest of the processing times as well. So to contrast some numbers again, this is the slide that I showed you back in April for paid and open source accounts of 75, 90, and 99% analyses finished, and for paid it's 3, 5, and 25. And today we're now again down in all categories, 2.7, 4, and 22. So we made some good strides there, and some of the very worst case offenders that we had, where we had repositories that were taking 60 minutes to execute, are themselves now running in that 22, 23-minute time. So people who've had large monorepos or ones with lots of branches open, things like that, then we've made, particularly on GitHub, some big strides in making sure those can actually execute in a sensible amount of time. So we continue to improve and we continue to work on that. So that's it for performance. To move on to session management now. So this is one of two enterprise improvements that we've added this quarter. So we continue to respect our customers' security postures. And so in a previous quarter, then we, for instance, removed our admin permission in our GitHub application so that we only use content read. And similarly now, then we actually have session limitations so that your active session lasts for 30 minutes until with a 30-minute inactivity timeout, and then 8 hours in total, and then you'll be required to log back in again, which again brings us back into line with sort of fairly standard industry practice for these things. It helps keeps your source code safe. And that, I believe, is going live tomorrow morning. So that'll be with you then. And similarly, in keeping your results secure, then we're now offering audit logs to our business tier customers. So we will track what we call critical actions within the software. So logins, creation of organizations, edits to coding standards, and things like that. We'll record those and provide them in a log that you'll be able to access, at least initially via API. Eventually, we will look at even enhancing the product with some of that information. I'm sure it'll be useful to understand who the last person to edit a coding standard was, for example, and by starting to record this, we'll be able to start presenting that information in the UI further down the road. So that's audit logs. We also have been working on onboarding and configuration. Now, I'm sure everybody here is a Codacy customer already. Thank you very much. So perhaps not so important for people who are already with us, but for new customers onboarding onto Codacy, we've streamlined that process in two ways. Firstly, by having a set set of checkboxes so you understand how far through that onboarding process you are. And secondly, and something that's available to everybody and useful to everybody, is that when you're creating a coding standard, then you'll initially get this much simpler set of slider bars to choose exactly what issues in swathes that you're interested in, rather than having to go tool by tool and pattern by pattern to decide exactly which ones you want and what the criticality of them are. So this is a good way to get you a good start quickly. And then, of course, you can customize this one pattern, one tool at a time if you need to reduce noise. But it should get you going faster. And talking about going faster, then we've also improved our code patterns configuration page, brought it in line with the coding standards pages themselves, so that when you come to edit an individual repository, then you'll see a screen that looks fairly similar to what you're expecting, but with some key improvements. Firstly, it's in our React SPA app, which is 10 times faster than it was before, and it's paginated. Basically, you will be able to do what you're looking to do faster because the page will move faster. There is improved sorting and filtering and searching activities on the screen, and also will make it more obvious to you if the repository is already following a coding standard, because fundamentally it's better for you if you're using coding standards rather than tweaking individual repositories, because that will help you define organizational policies across the piece rather than having to rely on individual repo configuration. And we're going to continue to drop further improvements to this over the course of this quarter. We have done some hackathon projects. So we had a hackathon back in May, early June. Everyone in our engineering squads took part. These are not the only things that came out of that, but some of those things were internal improvements, internal tools for QA to use, for instance, individual bits of tidying up around particular pipelines, but three of note here. So the first is what we call Storyteller, which Raphael worked on, I believe. Which brings a summary of the code in your PR onto your PR as a comment from our Codacy production bot. So that will summarize the code that has changed in English to help you get context of what it is you're about to look at when you look at the code, so that you're more able to review it effectively, and so that you can contrast that with the description, the human written description of what the changes are supposed to be. And of course, if those two things are not the same, then you need to think hard about whether the PR is actually doing what you meant it to do. And then secondly, because we have some tools that actually offer suggested fixes right there within the tool, then we have a fix issues button within the repository, which if there are issues that we've detected that we have fixes for already, then that'll help you create a patch to be able to fix all of them in one go. We can have a quick little look at those two things now. So if we have a look over here, so here is a regular GitHub PR making a change. We didn't bother to write a description, as people do sometimes. But hey, we have a lovely Codacy, a lovely comment from our bot that indicates exactly what the changes are in English. And that's right there in your Git provider. And of course, if you're using the GitHub comments extension in your IDE, then this will bring that comment, I think, right into your IDE. Maybe. Might not be tagged against a line of code, so I might have just lied there. Anyway, you will be able to get access to that and then contrast it with what the code change actually is. So that's the storyteller piece. And then something that actually requires me to click a button here is we're looking at one of our sample troubleshoot Codacy repositories. So this is the repository overview screen just within the quality product. And you can see here is our issues breakdown. There's not very many. Obviously, this is a sample demo one. We have a fix issues button here now, so we can click that. And because, as I said earlier in the call, we no longer hold the admin permission in your GitHub repositories through the GitHub app, we only have content read, then we can't actually commit the fix back for you. for your safety. So we give you all the instructions you need to copy the code into your clipboard, create a new branch, paste in that patch, and then go and create a PR. And then all of the changes that we can fix for you will be there in your Git provider for you to review and decide whether you want to accept them or not, all in one go. So that's pretty neat. And then to switch back over here, the final item here is secret detection in the IDE. They're hedged quite a lot in VS Code, on macOS, in repos with coding standards. But that's just to say that we are working actively on being able to execute scans in the IDE locally for you, rather than having to wait even the 2 or 3 minutes it can take for a cloud scan to take place. And secret detection happening pre-commit is obviously extremely valuable. So that's where we are focusing our fire. And we'll be doing that using obviously the exact same rules that we run in the cloud as well for consistency, which is why currently it's relying on only coding standards, and we'll need to broaden that out to look at both config files and individual repository code pattern setups. But that is in progress. Okay, so that's all from me on the Codacy platform. So I'm going to hand you over to Raphael, our lead product engineer, who's going to talk to you a little bit about security. So over to you, Raphael.
Yeah, thank you. And welcome back, everyone. And thank you for joining. And yes, today the highlight of the showcase is going to be talking about tests, dynamic application security testing. That's something that we're most excited about, in addition to a few other improvements in the security area. And yeah, we're coming back to a slide that we've been showing you a couple of times throughout this year. I think every showcase we've been showing this, just to recap where we started just a couple of months ago when we started venturing in security and improving the security capabilities that we're offering. Essentially, where we started with code scanning and SAST, and then through secrets and dependency scanning, infrastructure as code scanning, and even earlier in the year, pen testing. So with tests, we'll now bring all these 6 capabilities to you, with only cloud security still planned to be added later in the year. And I think we can, yeah, let's jump right through into the desk scanning, which is the thing that we're most excited to show you. We're finally having completely different scanning from that. So we're no longer looking at code, we're finally looking at applications and finding completely different kind of security issues from what we've been previously finding. Actually, what we can see in this screenshot is actually an issue from a sample application, but you can see that it's across the main misconfiguration. So for a CORS issue, which is something that we would struggle to identify with code scanning or any other tool of the sorts. And so I think the highlight of the showcase today is to show you how this works with Codacy and how you can get it running in your account. And yeah, I think we can go for a demo. I think I'll just take over the screen sharing and start with the demo. And yeah, I prepared here just a couple of scripts so you can see how simple it is. And most of you will already be familiar with the tool that we're using, which is OSZap. It's the most preeminent open source tool for test scanning and app scanning. And it's essentially what we're going to be using today. So I prepared a small script, which is essentially a one-liner, which runs Zap CLI as a containerized application using their baseline set of rules. So the simplest rules that you can run on a web application to identify security issues. And for testing purposes, we're going to be running that on PetSourceTrigger's demo application, and we're essentially asking a JSON report to be generated. And essentially what we're going to see real time is that it's all pretty straightforward, and it's something that you can easily automate in your CI pipelines. once you get the URL of any application live or some staging or testing, even something that you spin up on the pipeline itself. Even if this takes seconds, I'll just walk you through what the second part of the process is while we wait for that to complete. The second part of the so is also quite simple, which is essentially something that I've also have captured here in the script, which is essentially sending that report that we've generated, which has ended now and has found a couple of issues into Codacy. And again, pretty straightforward, much like you're doing with coverage if you're already using our coverage product. You're going to just be asked to upload one report. We can try that out live. Just essentially upload this. Yeah, we got confirmation. So if we can go back here to Codacy, you can actually see that we now have results here in this account. We actually click through. We'll see all of those results that Zap found are now available here in Codacy along all other security issues that we've been showing. Not only they'll be here, but they will be clearly categorized as being identified by Zap, but also as DAST issues with the correct CWE identified and the endpoints affected, with all the details that you expect to see from Zap included into Codacy as well. And of course, you can leverage all other triaging features that you would for any Codacy issue into these DAST issues. Yeah, I think that's the gist of what we want to share with DAST. We're very excited for you to get hands-on on this. If you go to our documentation now, you'll find there the Getting Started guide to setting up this on your account and setting this up on your pipelines. Do share your feedback. We're very excited to learn what you think. And since we have you here, it's something that you will just walk you through a couple of other improvements that we've made in the security risk management dashboard. The first point was something that we came across in the demo, which is the open findings distribution, where this previously only showed the SLA of issues or the severity. Now it shows the security scans that are underlying being run with the to identify the security issues. So not only you can at a glance see how many issues you have for each kind of security vulnerability, you'll also have an easy way to filter and focus only security issues that you're trying to solve. So if you're only looking for dependency scanning or only secret scanning, you can just click there and go and see all the results that are impacting your entire organization. And then continue with to drill down with the addition of the other filters. Another exciting addition to the security and risk management dashboard has been the severity filter on the activity history chart. Something that we've been using internal for us to track the introduction and the correction of security issues. But something that we haven't been able to was understand the specific severity of these issues. And now you can filter and essentially stack the charts on severity to understand the specific vulnerability of each issue that is being introduced and understand the trend of those issues. And yes, I think the final update on today's showcase regarding security is going to be the newly added support for new ecosystems. So there's a lot of them, and we can start with code scanning, where we added Apex and Elixir. So if you're developing code for Salesforce, do check out the rules and enable them. We think they'll be providing an interesting coverage for your security in Apex code. Also enabled secret scanning for Scala, which is actually the main language that we use to develop Codacy. It's something that we're starting to dog food ourselves as well. And then on dependency scanning, we're adding the most ecosystems. So both Maven and Gradle for Java and Kotlin languages. We're adding Golang with very in-depth support, including for the version of Go, where we'll detect vulnerabilities in the standard library. Also for Scala, as long as you have a specific plugin installed in your project, which is something that you can also look up on our documentation how to configure, and also for Dart and Elixir. So Pubspec and Wix package managers, which will be supported. And yeah, those are the updates that we're excited to share with you. Henrik, I think you still have a couple of
Yes, indeed. Yes, so a few more things to cover here in what we're planning on doing next.
Mhm.
So we're going to continue looking at security, obviously. We're going back now to SCA. So Raphael just showed you a bunch more effort we put into dependency scanning to widen our reach across a lot more platforms there. But we'll be working on proactively scanning for new vulnerabilities instead of waiting for a commit. And then being able to respond much more rapidly to new vulnerabilities being shared with us through the vulnerability databases that we track. On performance, we'll be looking at change processing, stage optimizations. So actually how we run the tools and being more efficient about those. Most of our work up to this point has been looking at what we call the discovery stage, which is the big IO piece of actually pulling the right change down from your Git provider, which is obviously slow and expensive. And we've optimized the hell out of that. So now it's time to look at our own tool engine and see what we can do better there. Again, as I mentioned, we'll be continuing to work on coding standards and configuration and more onboarding work there. So particularly, we're looking at being able to enable multiple coding standards, which has a key use case in security so that security teams will be able to set their own minimum coding standards for teams, and then individual groups will be able to build their own coding standards on top to be able to customize rather than having only a single coding standard per repository. So I think that'll be a step change in value you'll be able to extract from Codacy there by having different teams able to be responsible for different standards. And something we've been meaning to do for a very long time is bring more improvements to the organization dashboard around issue evolution, the same way that SRM does security issue evolution, showing you a chart of like how much you found and fixed over time. And then finally, on the enterprise strand, we'll be looking at segmenting organization data by groups of repositories. I mean, when you have more than 20 or 30 repositories, probably you have multiple different teams looking at them, and we'll be enabling you to be able to have groups of repositories to be able to get your results by segment rather than just across the entire organization.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that is it from us. So if there's any questions and answers, I have a question for Raphael, but we'll just check the chat and the Q&A
Mhm.
first. So from Mitra Dimitrov, do you have the hackathon projects in your product roadmap? Kind of the point of hackathons is that they don't exist in the framework of the product roadmap. So some of the things that came out of it have then been ingested by particular teams. So for instance, Storyteller will probably mature that, and therefore a team will pick that up and add that into their roadmap. Certainly the secrets in the IDE piece is becoming more and more, is living more and more with the team. But there'll be other things that were sort of one and done, which don't need any further work. It was just a particular effort to put a queue in instead of an API call, for instance, and that's complete and tidied up now.
Mhm.
Any other questions from anybody, please? Either the chat or the Q&A window is fine. Go ahead. And while you have a think, then I'll ask Raphael on DAST. Then how do you get rid of DAST issues? How do they get resolved?
Yeah, essentially, so that will become available as we upload additional reports. So if we detect an issue on the first report that you send, we'll then, as much as so it will work just as Codacy works with code scanning issues. The issue is detected in the commit, it's then fixed on the following commit because Codacy automatically the text data is fixed with. So the idea here is the same. You send us a report with a bunch of issues. On the following report, you send us less or more issues. If the issue is no longer present on the follow-up, the issue is going to be fixed or considered fixed like this.
Anybody else? Any questions? Quietest Q&A. It does take people a minute or two to join in sometimes. All right. Well, if a question comes to you later, then do reach out on LinkedIn or by email through the chat function within Codacy itself, and we'll get back to you. In the meantime, then a few more housekeeping bits. We can go on to the next slide. Then, as they say, like and subscribe. You can follow us on LinkedIn or on X. You'll be able to watch this and other product showcases back through this QR code, or if you find the link to our showcase, these are also on our blog, blog.codacy.com. They'll all be there. And we are developers in about 10 days from now in Berlin. So if you're also going, then please do stop in and say hello at the booth. And we also have one of our team speaking there as well. I think 9:40 a.m. on the Friday, Luis Ventura will be talking to you about how did we really break production? How do you know you really broke production? Something like that, which will be fun. So if you're at We Are Developers, then do look us up. So all that remains is to say thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And yeah, if we can help you at all, then do reach out. Thanks, everybody, and goodbye.